how you doing, Rob?
So you guys don't believe in God?
That's correct.
You're sitting there talking about religion, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So why are you talking about religion?
Why would atheists conduct an investigation of the Bible?
Exactly.
Sure. Because I happen to find it interesting, for one thing, being a former Christian.
I thought he was still talking.
Well, specifically, why are you bothering talking about religions? Well, I guess my question is, how can you not believe in God if you can't even define what God is?
Well, you could ask that question backwards too, and say, how can someone believe in God if they
how
can't
can you
define
believe
it?
in something that you're not able to understand?
Well, at least they have faith.
What is faith?
And why is faith good, and what is it?
Well, you haven't answered my question. I mean,
you're
turning the question around. You're asking it backwards.
Well, ask your question again.
Well, the question is, how can you not believe in something that you haven't defined?
It's not that I don't believe in something that I haven't defined. It's the explanations or descriptions and claims about a God which have been presented to me.
Right.
I reject all of those as untrue.
Right.
So then the question is, why even bother with all this chat about religion?
I actually gave that in the intro. I don't know if you saw the intro, but one of the things I said was that a common question that we get on this show and that I hear on the show when I'm not actually sitting up here is, why did you stop being a Christian? And some of us used to be Christians. I used to be a Christian. Matt used to be a Christian. And this is the response is always very quick because we don't have a lot of time. And so today what I'm doing is I'm hitting on some of the information that is like some of the stuff that I came across that made me sort of redefine what I thought about God and eventually led to my atheism, because people ask that question frequently on this program.
There's an implicit idea that seems to be ubiquitous of the Bible is true and worthy of respect, even though you're free to reject it. And in this case, drawing attention to historical issues and issues of doctrine and contradictions within the Bible, contradictions with the Bible versus science, contradictions between the Bible and historical notions, it hopefully opens up the eyes of some people who have just said, you know what, the Bible's true and I'm not going to investigate any further, to show at a minimum that claims that it's true and authoritative are not beyond question. Now, how somebody, what they end up accepting, that's their own business, and I don't begrudge anybody their personal beliefs. And part of this is about what people do on behalf of those beliefs. Do you believe in a creator or some kind of a higher being? No. Not if you're talking about well, I can't even think of a sense that you'd be talking about a creator in which I would agree with that. No.
Do you believe in DNA?
Yes.
As a creative force?
Well, as the blueprint for life, yes, DNA exists. I mean, that's
I guess
fact.
My question is, why aren't you talking about biology or science?
Because I'm not a biologist.
Why are you seemingly obsessed with people's religious?
Well, atheism is a religious stance.
It's a position on the existence of God. If I were to sit here and talk about DNA, do you think that would convince? I mean, are there a lot of Christians who don't believe in DNA?
No, I just think there's something in, you're talking about having this, you're talking about religion as if you're searching for some other religion.
No. We're just pointing out why we don't agree with this particular religion. And the reason we feel it's important is because we live in a society where most people do believe in this religion, and I would submit that most of them don't have the first clue why. They're simply raised that way, but what it does is it affects their actions and it affects their thought patterns. And once you've trained your mind to accept contradictions and compartmentalize beliefs with this belief gets to be treated in a completely special way, now you're in a very dangerous situation where other things can be forced upon your conscience, and you can agree with things that you wouldn't normally agree with.
I'm just concerned that this is a negative show. You're talking a whole show about something that you don't believe in, and yet you can't define what it is you don't believe.
No, I can.
I'm actually on this particular show just giving information, which I would think, I mean, when I was a Christian, I found this information extremely interesting. I didn't find it negative. I thought that it was, interesting to find out about the history of what I believed in.
Also, that where you mentioned we can't define what we don't believe. I can define what I don't believe.
Yeah.
I can define, for any example that's been presented to me, the idea of anything supernatural.
Well, what do you believe in? What is your faith?
I don't have faith in anything.
You don't believe in anything?
I believe in lots of stuff. I believe in all kinds of stuff. I believe this mug exists. It doesn't require faith. Faith is believing something without sufficient evidence to justify belief, or in the face of evidence to the contrary. People have asked similar questions to you of, do you have faith the sun's going to come up tomorrow? No, I don't. Now, in a very, in a lowercase faith sense, I guess you could use that as kind of a colloquialism. I have a rational, reliable trust that the sun's going to come up tomorrow because I have historical evidence that it's done it every day throughout history.
And an understanding of why it comes up and how it comes up. So, that's, when people use the argument that that's faith, what they're really doing is trying to switch out knowledge with faith. I know the sun is coming up because I know why, I know how it works, I know how it operates.
That's not faith. Why don't you just call this the science experience?
Because we're not talking about science.
Because we're not always talking about science.
You're the one that's calling and saying we should talk about science. I'm talking about history.
That's why I say this is a negative show. You're trying to talk about something that you don't believe in, but you can't really define it.
I just did.
You're not making it positive.
But wait,
you're not making it positive by making it.
Who says we have to have a positive show anyway? And just because we're giving historical facts, what makes that negative?
Yeah, why?
We're just giving historical facts today.
Well, you talk about facts, but are we supposed to believe those facts?
Well,
no, you're supposed to go out and investigate and discover what you believe.
And at the beginning of the program, that's one of the things I said, is that anybody has a right to hear this and just reject it, or they have a right to hear it and say, this is interesting, I'd like to find out more, or they have a right to go and draw their own conclusion, not necessarily draw the conclusion that I did. And one of the things I pointed out was that a lot of this information that I've got today comes from sites who proclaim to believe in God and proclaim to believe in the Bible. So this information, although to me it equates to my atheism, can very well reinforce somebody's Christianity. I have no control over what...
I just wish you would talk about define what it is you don't believe.
Well, today we're talking about the gods and we're defining the gods. We're defining the gods of the Old Testament and the pantheons of the Middle East, and I think that is what a lack of belief in God really means, is that I'm rejecting what someone else is defining. So it's like someone comes to me and they say, you should believe in God, and here's what God is. And then I look at that and I say, I have trouble believing that. That makes me an atheist. But it's not up to me to define my own God and then reject him.
Do you feel like you have to call yourself an atheist and not a scientist, say?
But I'm not a scientist. So I don't. Why science and atheism are two different things. I don't know why you keep putting them together, because atheism is simply a lack of belief in God. It's really not anything about science.
I'm just trying to point out that you're talking about something that you can't define, something.
No,
talking about nothing.
We have defined it throughout history.
There's only so many.
Say what you think.
There's only so many times I'm going to allow you to repeat the same thing that we've responded to over and over again. If you think the show's too negative, go watch something else. I mean, seriously, I'd like for people to stick around, but today Tracy's come here with just a look at literal history, and things that people, believers specifically, may not know. If that doesn't interest you, go watch some football.